Interestingly, when you and I were talking last night, it was moments after this had taken place. And I remember asking you, sir, is it a suicide bomber? And now we're looking at the very real possibility that this Dr. Umar Mohammad could have either been a suicide bomber or the last remaining or one of the last remaining active operatives of a terror module that had been busted. And he has either panicked trying to escape, or he has, we don't know, or he has thought use it or lose it. He has taken some decision, the motivation of which we are unclear of. Do you now believe, given everything we know, that we are looking at a possible suicide bomb attack?
Thank you, Barkha, first of all, for inviting me for your program. Yeah, my mind goes back, as I said yesterday also, the history of suicide bombings. A lot of difference between suicide attacks and suicide bombings, right? Yesterday also I explained that. Suicide attacks are usually by fidayeen elements who want to break into camps and buildings, etc., and do a die kind of a thing, take people with them, but they don't normally blow themselves up. Bombers are rare, much more rare. We just had 4 or 5 incidents of such bombings in the valley per se. I think nothing south of the Pir Panjal, everything has been there itself. Delhi itself has not seen much of this in the past. So suicide bombing as such in India has been a rarity. Pakistan has had a hell of a lot of it. Of course, it's happened in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it's happened in Afghanistan. Iraq is the core center of all this which has happened. But India per se has not had much of it. So Pulwama, yes, I would say is one of the, the focal points of radicalization. Shupia, Pulwama, Tral, this is the broad belt of probably the most rabid kind of a radicalized elements which are who exist there. You cannot rule out the possibility that, yes, an odd person has been motivated to carry out a suicide bombing attack. If you remember, the bombing which took place at the Badami Bagh gate way back was done by a young boy who was motivated. He had come in from the UK. He was a student there. He was motivated here, and he carried out this attack in a Maruti car at that particular time. So who is motivated? Who is radicalized to do an act? You can never kind of ascertain it very easily. It's a rarity, and therefore you cannot rule it out. In this particular case, I was just discussing with Yashovardhan Saab also just before while we were preparing for our program, and we were coming to the conclusion that, first of all, if there were more than one person in this vehicle, there is no certainty yet whether it was 1, 2, or 3. Having more than one person in a vehicle to do a suicide attack is a rarity. It will not happen, because they would rather go and do 2 attacks somewhere else, right? And have a multiplied kind of an effect. This, to my mind, it seems to be some kind of an accidental detonation after a panic attack in which they were forced to try and relocate some of the explosives. Once the explosives had been discovered, once the transparent declaration had come about from the police authorities that such a thing is there and a module is being busted, has been busted, there must have been a panic attack, and probably they decided to relocate some of this. Now, you don't relocate with detonators fixed inside your IEDs. You would just carry your explosive around. An explosive by itself without any other explosives connected with them are actually just nothing but amorphous.
Why do you believe that it's more likely to have been an accidental detonation triggered by panic?
Why I'm saying is that somewhere, you see, the very fact that I'm saying, if it is more than one person, if it is one person, if there were 2 people or 3 people in this car, then obviously it doesn't seem to be a deliberate act. It is probably an attempt to try and relocate, or an attempt to do multiple attacks at different places, right? That's the kind of conjecture one can make. But the possibility of 3 people or 2 people being in a car and carrying out a suicide bombing, I've never heard of a thing like this, and it doesn't stand to any rationale.
Do you, Neeraj Kumar and Yashovardhan Azad, want to react to what General Hussain has said, that he believes that it is more likely to be an accidental detonation. That doesn't mean that the man in the car was not a terrorist. He wasn't part of the same anti-terror module, but that possibly the police going public, Neeraj Kumar, with the fact that they had busted this plan, now set this particular Dr. Umar Mohammad, named as the occupant of the I-20 car, set him off into some sort of panic. That's what General Hasnain thinks. What do you think, Neeraj Kumar?
Barkha, the point is that we do not know the finer details of the incident yet.
Yes.
For instance, we don't know whether a detonator has been found at the spot. We do
Yes.
not know how many people died who could have been in the car. You see, when you examine the remains of people, you can make out who was standing where. Of course, that requires very meticulous and very informed forensic examination. But people who were in the car will have a different pattern of injuries, and
Yeah.
people who are standing at a distance outside the car will have a different pattern of injuries. So, first of all, I have not heard of any reports that a detonator has been found, which confirms that it was a improvised explosive device. Secondly, we do not know how many people were in the car, whether more than one, and how many total casualties, who was standing where. It should be possible, with the kind of expertise in post blast investigation that our people have, it is possible to pinpoint that who was standing where based on the injuries that have been discovered on them. So I am in full agreement with General Hasnan that the possibility of a suicide uh, car bombing with three people in the car is most unlikely. It has to be either one. If there were three people, then it is most unlikely that it was a case of suicide bombing. In fact, I don't recall any incident anywhere in the world where there have been more than one people involved in a case of
Yeah.
suicide bombing. Yeah.
Yashwardhan Azad, if you want to add to that, Neeraj Kumar is absolutely right. We're still dealing in a little bit of fog of information. There's a lot that still has to be either assessed or revealed. So we don't know if a detonator was found. We don't know how the explosion was actually triggered. We don't know how many people exactly were in the car. So in the absence of that, it is very difficult to make an exact assessment. What we do know is clearly there were explosives in the car.
Here
Could we
is
unmute? Yeah, yeah, yes, sir.
critical point here is, and I agree with both my distinguished speakers, that obviously, if you have three people, there's no history of a suicide bomb being blasted when you have three people. There's no requirement. General was very, very right. The question here is that it's also very important to find out as to how many people were there. And with the latest that you have in forensics, you should be able to DNA samples. There are so many things which you can find at the time of the blast, because at the time of the blast, when you get these hair follicles or these blood traces or something like that, there has to be something there which can be picked up and you can find. And once you get that, then obviously the picture is clear whether it's a armed attack or not. Now, there's one thing which I wanted to say, Barkha. Whether it was an accidental or whether it was a bomb attack, sorry,
Yeah.
The damage has
Whether
been done.
exactly,
The
exactly.
damage,
Whether it was a suicide bomb or a triggered accidental panic-stricken detonation, here was an individual whose car was laden with explosives. That much seems
exactly,
obvious.
and it was devastating because 13 people have died and 24 have been injured. I think
Yes.
it is as worse as those blasts in Sarojini Nagar. The idea of such blasts, anyways, to create a panic amongst the public, and there are other things also. The car
Yeah.
was parked near metro station, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
car was parked near the metro station, and oh, sorry.
No, I think while you handle your phone, let me actually, here's the car caught on
Yeah.
CCTV. And the other odd thing that we have in terms of information is, General Hassan, this particular car was spotted in the parking lot near the site of the explosion in the afternoon for over 3 hours. Earlier, 2 weeks ago on CCTV, this car was caught. This is a pollution check. Same car, the I-20. The point is, what was the car doing in wait for over 3 hours? When you say, did this chap get panic stricken? He was in that area for 3 hours. Yashu sir, if you're back, I'll let you complete that and
Yes.
have
Can I,
General Saab react to it. Yeah, yeah,
can I just add a few things, General Saab, before that?
yeah,
See, the other thing is that if you see the location, it's a highly sensitive location. Outside the metro, between the
yeah,
two temples, across the Red Fort, and what is the time when it moves out? It could have moved out earlier, it could have moved out later.
yeah,
It moved at 6:58, which is a peak traffic time. So the
yeah.
intention is clear. I would straight away call it a terrorist act, and I'm happy that in UAPA 16 section and 18 section have been used, which talks of conspiracy and it talks of terrorism. So I think we have to start from here. This point, of course, will be clarified once the forensics give us the report, and I'm sure they should be able to give us this.
General Saab, I want you to add to this. The fact is, I completely agree that if it was panic triggered accidental detonation, the man was still carrying explosives in his car. You and I were talking yesterday, and we said, "Arey, we both thought it was a CNG explosion in the beginning." I mean, the scale of the damage, the flames, the mangled bodies, the burnt vehicles. It soon became clear that it was anything but. Now, I want you to respond to a little bit of what we know about this car and the occupants. Yes, we don't know. Neeraj Kumar is right. We don't know whether there was a detonator. We don't precisely, officially know how many people there were in the car. But we do know that this car was, according to now various reports, parked stationary for 3 hours before this explosion takes place. What does that tell you in terms of whether it was a suicide bombing or not?
I would agree with what Yashovardhan Saab just said, that speculation obviously points towards the fact that there would have been an attempt to try and take away this car laden with explosives, but the afternoon, at the time when it was parked, was probably not considered as an appropriate time, because the casualties would be very comparatively much lower. Sunehri Bagh, the area where this car was actually parked, the density of population around that place is not comparatively so high. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, from there, they've taken this car out, they've gone all the way past the Chandni Chowk crossing, right up to that, probably the Delhi station crossing, and taken a U-turn and come back, right? Anywhere they could have blasted this. We could have blasted it anywhere that they could have taken it towards Chandni Chowk. But towards Chandni Chowk, I think there's a traffic restriction, so it will
Yeah.
probably not be permitted to take it there. But they probably chose the area which had the maximum footprint of population at that particular time, and that is right opposite the Mandir
In
area,
fact,
very close to the Jama Masjid itself. And 6:52, that time when it happened, is actually peak hour. So
I
it
remember
seems
you.
the
I remember you
intent was
saying.
there. Yeah.
I remember you saying on the program last night that 6:52 is terrorist time.
Yeah, absolutely. I said so. I said it is terrorist time, because that is the time when you have the maximum movement. My speculation would have told me that if they were heading along this road, even more crowded area at this particular time would be the India Gate Circle, or somewhere around Delhi Gate. This is the area just after Daryaganj before Asif Ali Road. That area again has a teeming population, lots and lots of traffic on a circle in an area like that, area of the famous Golcha cinema and places like that. These are the kind of areas it could have happened. They could have had almost a greater impact than what has probably happened here. But you can't legislate this, what a terrorist is thinking at that particular time. And as I said, it is panic driven. He would be wanting to do it at the earliest. That at least the psyche of a terrorist should say that he does not want to keep lingering in the possible potentiality that he could be get apprehended somewhere, get interdicted somewhere. So he wants to get over it quickly. That's why perhaps he just took a U-turn, came, found the most crowded place, and just detonated it there. That is in case it was a deliberate act and not an accidental fire.
Neeraj Kumar, before I play out the Prime Minister's statement, which has been made in Bhutan, I want you to have a last thought on this debate around whether the public articulation of the anti-terror module being busted. Some people think that it was great. It prevented a much bigger tragedy. Both the crackdown, the recovery of the explosives, letting people know that this was going to happen. Others are arguing कि थोड़ी देर और discreet रहते, because there were clearly some moving bits of the module that were still in play. Which side of the debate do you weigh in on?
I feel that having gone public was quite the right thing to do, because by doing that you are alerting the population, and the fact that so much of explosives had been discovered or had been found, it was only natural that people should be alerted that the likelihood of more such more the likelihood of explosions taking place was pretty
Yeah.
high. So I will go with the theory that the government or the police did quite the right thing by going public.